Architectural entourage are elements that dress up a rendering. Examples include people, cars, plants, street furniture, and anything else you can think of to convey a sense of scale and context. Typically, entourage is not 3D modeled. Instead, it's created with photos. I'll show you how to create simple geometry that we will ultimately map the photos onto. I like to call these planes billboards because I'll show you techniques later on that allow you to rotate the billboard so that it always faces the camera. And this is convenient because it keeps us in the illusion of dimensional entourage. As soon as you view the entourage on edge, the illusion breaks down and you'll perceive that you're looking at a photo mapped onto a plane. So to begin with, let's create a plane primitive in the front viewport. Deciding the aspect ratio of this plane is difficult. What we need to do is open up the image that we plan to map onto this plane. And I have Photoshop open with this ficus JPEG that I've included in the sample files folder. This is the piece of entourage that we'll be mapping onto the plane. Here in Photoshop, I'd like to figure out the image size, and I can do that like this. It's 460 by 512 pixels. If you don't have Photoshop, it's really not the end of the world. You can go to File, View Image File, and you can select the ficus JPEG. Then click View. Hold down the right mouse button and you'll see the statistics here. Make a note of it. It's 460 by 512. These are the dimensions that I need to enter over here. Now 460 is the width of the object, so I'm just going to type that in. 460 inches by 512 inches. Obviously this is too big. It's 42 feet in length. I'll need to scale it down. In order to determine what scale it should be, it's helpful to create a temporary object that has roughly the size that you intend the entourage to be. So for example, I'll make a box primitive over here to give me a sense of scale. I'll make it 3 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet. And to make it easy, I'll move it to the origin point. So this is our visual template to give us a sense of scale. Now I'll select the plane and move it also to the origin point. I'll turn off real-world map size, but I'll let the primitive generate mapping coordinates. You should never scale the object directly in world space. Instead, do that with an XForm modifier so that the scale will exist in object space. Go to the gizmo level and scale it down. I'm scaling it uniformly to preserve the aspect ratio. And when it roughly matches the width of this box, I'll stop and go back to the top level. Now I can get rid of the box. It's done its job. Notice that the plane's pivot point is centered on the plane, and that's going to be a problem if we want to use this as a piece of entourage. Ideally, the pivot point would be centered but on the bottom edge of the object. Go to the Hierarchy tab and go into Effect Pivot Only mode. Move the pivot using 3D Snap. Turn on Pivot and Vertex modes. Then move the pivot down to the lower edge. In wireframe mode, you can see that the object has 4 segments, and this is unnecessary. We should simplify this as much as possible. I'll go down the stack to the plane and set the length and width to 1 segment. So really, this is as simple as we can get it. The geometry aspect here is very efficient. I'll move this to the origin point, and in the next video I'll show you how to design a material that will make this piece of entourage look realistic.